All right, everybody, buckle up because we're diving into some seriously cool stuff today. AI and expertise.
Ooh, yeah. Getting into AI and expertise, huh?
We're talking about what happens when AI gets so good, it could give a real expert a run for their money.
It really makes you think, right? Like, are we really heading towards a world where we've got robots doing all the thinking?
Hmm.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not even about robots being perfect. It's more like, what happens when AI is just good enough?
Exactly. Like, forget the whole robots taking over the world scenario.
Yeah,
What about robots that are just like answering emails, you know?
totally.
And this synthetic work newsletter, they call it Good Enough Commodities.
Hmm.
It basically talks about how businesses might actually start using AI for stuff, even if it messes up sometimes. It's
Yeah.
kind of refreshing, honestly.
It is, because we've all been there, right? Like, who hasn't sent an email with a typo?
Oh, all the time.
And Alessandro, he's the writer, he makes a really good point about this. He's saying businesses might be willing to just accept some imperfections if it means saving time and money, which, let's face it, is often the bottom line.
Makes sense to me. So it's not even about the AI being perfect, it's about it being better than the average worker?
Yeah.
And he even gives these examples about project managers with their typos and finance people messing up
Oh,
spreadsheets.
tell me about it. I've worked with a few of those.
Oh, have you?
Definitely not my favorite.
And that's where this whole good enough thing gets really interesting. Because if a company can get, say, like 80% of the work done for half the cost, are they really going to wait around for a perfect AI or even a perfect human?
Probably not. But that then makes you wonder, right? If AI is learning so fast, becoming specialized even faster than we can, what happens to us? What happens to the value of human expertise?
Right. Yeah.
And this is what I find so fascinating.
Yeah. And one of the things you shared, this TED Talk by Vinod Khosla, he calls it an expertise glut. What's that all about?
So Kosla's talk, it's a bit of a wake-up call, to be honest.
Hmm.
He's basically suggesting that we're getting closer and closer to a time where real, live expertise in a lot of fields, it could become almost free because AI can just learn so quickly. Like imagine a world where you can get legal advice or even a basic medical diagnosis from an AI instantly.
Wow. Okay. So if AI is handling all the complex stuff, what are we humans left to do? I mean, is it just like Alessandro asks, are we all going to be entertainers? Is that it? Is
Yeah.
that the only value we can offer?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think anyone really has a clear answer yet.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes you think, in a world where AI might be able to do anything, what are we going to choose to do? And what does that mean for the future of work? Like the whole thing. It's a lot.
So we've got AI maybe flipping this whole idea of expertise on its head.
Yeah.
And like some people are saying it'll be amazing, others are bracing for, the robot apocalypse. Kind of getting mixed messages here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely not a simple either-or situation.
Yeah,
And that's what makes all of this so interesting. We're sitting here trying to figure out what the future holds. But the only thing we can really be sure of is there'll be surprises.
totally. And speaking of surprises, some pretty big names are weighing in with some very different takes on how this whole AI thing is going to play out.
Yeah.
Like we've got Larry Fink, he's the CEO of BlackRock.
Right.
He seems to be all in on AI, more productivity, higher wages, basically sunshine and rainbows, according to him.
Well, I mean, he's not completely wrong. When you think about it from his perspective, BlackRock manages, what is it, trillions of dollars in assets.
Yeah.
So if AI can make things run smoother, help them manage even more, all with fewer people, I can see how that could mean more profits, maybe even bigger paychecks for whoever's left.
That makes sense. But then you've got Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, and they're painting a much different picture, right? Like they're saying AI could wipe out 2/3 of junior analyst positions. Not exactly a win for everyone.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really important to remember that everyone's coming at this from their own point of view, even CEOs, maybe especially CEOs.
Yeah.
Like BlackRock, they benefit from having a smaller payroll, while those junior analysts at the other firms, they're the ones who might be out of a job. It's like one person's win is another person's, well.
Yikes. So it's not just about whether AI can do the job, it's about who benefits and who's left behind. And on that note, what about the global impact of all this? The IMF report that you shared mentioned the UK potentially getting a huge economic boost from AI.
Right.
But what about the countries that aren't as technologically advanced? What happens to them?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
If rolling out all this AI just widens the gap between the haves and have-nots on a global scale, we're all in for a rough ride.
It's almost like we're standing on the edge of this huge technological revolution, but not everyone's getting an invite.
Okay, so there are definitely some potential downsides to think about.
Hmm.
But before we go full-on AI existential crisis mode, what about the good stuff? Aaron Levy, he's the CEO of Box. He seems to be firmly in the AI is going to be amazing camp.
Right.
He's saying AI is going to make everyone so productive, we're actually going to need to hire more people, not less.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I mean, his take is definitely the most optimistic. And it's a nice thought, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are definitely some companies out there who are seeing those gains already, but
There's always a but, isn't there? Well, Alessandro from the newsletter we were talking about before, he brought up something really interesting. He was saying that in his experience, a lot of companies, they're not using AI to come up with new ideas or create new positions.
interesting.
They're using it to save money and get more done with fewer people. So instead of this AI utopia where we're all working on these cool new projects,
Hmm.
we might just end up with a whole lot of people just trying to keep up with more work.
Right. It's like the robots are after our to-do lists, not our actual jobs.
Yeah, pretty much.
But even if that is how it goes down, there's still this issue of how AI makes decisions in the first place. We've all heard the stories, algorithms with biases and all that.
Right.
The UK trade unions, they seem especially worried about this, calling for legal protections for workers, especially when it comes to AI making decisions about hiring and firing.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense to be concerned. We're used to having humans in charge, even if they're not always fair. But AI adds this whole other level of complexity because we don't really get how these systems make the choices they do.
Right?
So if we're supposed to trust AI with decisions that affect whether we can pay our bills,
Hmm.
we have to know that those decisions are being made fairly.
It's almost like we need some kind of AI ethics committee to make sure their robots are playing fair.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that's a whole other deep dive for another day. So where does that leave us? I gotta be honest, this is a lot to process.
Right.
AI could be amazing, it could be the worst thing ever. Maybe it's something in between, like something we haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly. And isn't that the whole point? Like, we do these deep dives to really get into these complicated topics, look at all the different angles,
Mhm.
and maybe, just maybe, we come out of it with even more questions than we started with.
Yeah, and maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all of this.
Mm,
This whole AI and expertise thing, it's not like a simple equation, right?
right.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's messy and uncertain, and we're all kind of figuring it out as we go.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
so easy to get caught up in all the hype, good or bad. But the truth is, the future of work, the future of expertise, it's being shaped right now by the choices we're making today.
So instead of asking that big scary question like, is a robot going to take my job?
Yeah.
Maybe we should be asking ourselves, how can I make sure my skills are still important, valuable in a world where pretty good AI is everywhere?
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's not about being scared and freaking out. It's about, okay, what can I do?
Mm.
If AI is always raising the bar, then we got to keep learning and growing too, right?
Right? So what can people actually do to get ready for whatever's coming next?
I mean, if I had the perfect answer to that, I'd probably be like, a billionaire guru or something.
Right.
But I think looking at everything we've talked about, it seems like those really valuable skills, those are going to be the ones that are, well, human. Things AI, at least for now, can't really replicate. Things like creativity, being able to think critically,
Yeah.
knowing how to adapt, how to work together.
So instead of trying to like outsmart the robots, maybe it's about being more human.
Exactly. And maybe that's the best place to leave it. The
Mhm.
future might be a bit of a mystery, but we get to write the story.
So keep learning, keep growing, and definitely keep asking those tough questions. The robots might be on their way, but that doesn't mean they get to win.